Let's try this again, shall we? Let's give it a second try, shall we? See if we can't get audio right this time. Sorry about that, guys. That was on me. I'd love to be able to blame that on technology, but that was just a human brain fail. I didn't switch microphone inputs. So it happens, I guess. So sorry about that. All right. So I apologize it took me so long to get the After Schrock started. I was looking up David's situation. I told him I would get it taken care of for him about his expiring warranty. And as soon as I looked him up, I saw his last name. I was like, oh, I know this gentleman has been with us for decades. We've only been around for 22 years. So when I say decades, like he's been a long time customer. He's had lots of computers from us. And so like a lot of computers, almost all of them are expired in warranty. But he's got 3 or 4 current computers that have current warranties except for one. So I figured out which one generated the robocall. But then I'm like, while you have him on the line, ask him about all these other computers to see if they're still in use. And if they are still in use, great, we should put a warranty on them. If they're not in use, then let's mark them as expired or recycled or whatever so that we don't send future alerts on them. Thank you, Winston. Yeah, I noticed the audio wasn't working right when I looked over at the screen at the closed captioning on my monitor over here, and it was like not what I was saying. I was like, I'm like, oh. And I looked down, I'm like, yeah. Physical switch, fixed. But I have to restart the stream when I do that. So, sorry about that. But it looks like we got most everybody back. So, funny thing happened this week in Papillion. So, a gentleman calls us. He wants to do the Windows 11 upgrade. He needs a motherboard, a processor, and memory. And so he's got his holiday special. It's like a 2011 holiday special. And he says, I'm going to bring it in. He's coming from Council Bluffs. I'm going to bring it in. And he never comes in, which I thought was weird because I talked to the guy and I was like, he seemed really intent on doing it. I figured he would have showed up and done it, but he didn't. Okay, whatever. So the next day, I'm at the shop in Papillion, at Open, and James is there with me and Marissa's there, and, we're like 10:05 and the phone rings, and James gets this confused look on his face. And afterwards he was like, yeah, the guy just told me like, hey, this is so-and-so. Did you get my computer? And then he just kind of looked confused, like, did I get your computer? And, he's looking in the online system, and it's not checked in anywhere. And he's like, oh, my gosh, you've been 22 years, we've never lost a computer. Like, how does this happen? And so the guy's like, well, yeah, I left it in the bushes outside. And so James walks past Marissa, and he looks at her and he goes, you left your computer in the bushes outside? Yeah, that's where I left it. So Marissa gets up and goes and looks outside, and sure enough, she reaches into the bushes and pulls out this desktop tower wrapped in a black trash bag. And I'm like, did the guy bring it in a trash bag, or did he just happen to have like a used trash bag laying around the car? Thought, I'll just put it in that. It'll be fine. Leave it out there all night, Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, that's never happened in 22 years. We've never had a customer leave their computer outside the door in the bushes for us to pick up the next morning. But, no, we upgraded it to Windows 11 and made sure that it was in the service center. We didn't put it back in the bushes for him to pick up, which would have been really funny. But, yeah, we didn't do that, especially after we had upgraded it to Windows 11. It was a really good computer at that point. He didn't want to. Somebody would have taken it. It would have been bad. But, yeah, I mean, we're in a business park. Like, people are coming and going all the time from all the businesses around us. Like, nobody is like, there's a trash bag in the bushes. I was like, I wonder what's in the trash bag. It could be a pot of gold. You never know. So it's just kind of funny. I don't know. But, yeah, we've never had that happen before. All right. Thank you for the audio check, Winston. Good morning, Mitch. Richard's here. Roger. Bill made it back. Gail found you. Yeah, I was hiding Gail for just a little bit. Well, I had to get some stuff. I had stuff to do. I had important stuff to do. So, I don't know. I just have this, I don't know, the normalcy bias part of my brain is telling me that nothing is going to happen. Don't worry about it. The logical side of my brain is telling me that this whole Pelosi Taiwan visit thing is more serious than it should be for some reason. Number one, okay, so Pelosi is going to go to Taiwan. We've been sending congressional delegations to Taiwan all year long China has been diplomatically protesting these delegations every time they come. China usually finds out they were there after they left because, Taiwan is its own country. China does not agree with that. China believes in the one China policy, that Taiwan is a breakaway province of China that will one day come back under Chinese control. Taiwan values their independence. It turns out that Taiwan is the number one place on the planet for the manufacturing of advanced processors and circuit boards. So one of the things that makes Taiwan valuable to China, China does not have the capability to manufacture 5 nanometer chips, 7 nanometer chips. They don't have that capability. They don't have the equipment. They don't have the expertise. They're working frenetically on trying to steal it, but they don't have it yet. Because every time they steal it, chips get better. And now all of a sudden, they got to 10 nanometer and they're like, yes. And then all of a sudden there's 5 nanometer and they're like, no, gosh. The reason this is important is the thinner the wafer on the chip is. When I talk about nanometers, the more efficient it is, because you can stack more processors, transistors basically on the wafer, because they're smaller. So each layer is thinner. So you can do more on one chip the thinner the nanometers are. And then it also makes it more power efficient for reasons that I'm not entirely privy on. So basically the lower the nanometer of the processor, the more power efficient it is and the more powerful it is. Now, let's say you're trying to make an anti-missile tracking system and you need a lot of computing power to track a missile moving at hypersonic speed, and you need a lot of power efficiency so that this thing can run on whatever power it has available, whether that's battery, backup, generator, whatever. You can't just bring a supercomputer with a bunch of NVIDIA graphics cards out into the field and have it track, missiles. It won't work. So having more energy efficient chips in the tracking systems allows you to intercept more missiles. Conversely, having more advanced processors in the missiles allow the missiles to evade the tracking systems. So you can really see here in the modern battlefield where processor supremacy is a real thing. It's as valid as any other weapon supremacy tenet that you would have looked at over the years in the military. Better sword, better shield, better processor. Taiwan has the ability to make the best processors in the world. The best, the number one. Before you can buy them, they make them in Taiwan because that's where they get made. So China wants that desperately. So as a consequence, one of the first things in the Taiwanese defense plan, if China were to invade, the first thing they're supposed to do is scuttle all the factories so that China can't make processors. That if China wins, they can't take the spoils of the island and make China greater. So a couple things with that. Let's say that there is some invasion of Taiwan by China, and China takes over the capability to make those chips. That's bad. Let's say there is some invasion by China, and Taiwan scuttles the chip factories but wins the conflict. Well, that's bad, because now chip factories don't just get built. As we've learned from the CHIPS bill, right? They don't just get built. They take a long time. Then it's like a clean environment. And then you have the people who would probably, a lot of them, be dead after a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. The human intelligence of how to make the chips and the people that work in the factories. So there's a lot that goes into it aside from the fact of the physical building and the equipment. So getting back to Pelosi flying to China. China's always complained in the past. This time, though, China is really complaining. Like official Chinese news outlets, like state-sponsored news outlets, there was some debate as to whether the correct translation was prepare for war. Another translation could be prepare for action. One or the other. The meaning is pretty much the same. But basically, China is saying a lot of things publicly that are going to be really, really hard to back down from. And in that culture, saving face is a very important thing. So if you say that you're going to shoot down Speaker Pelosi's plane if it comes to Taiwan, and that if it's escorted by fighter jets, that China will consider that an invasion of sovereign soil. Is that an idle threat? So if China doesn't do that, and if Pelosi goes and China doesn't do it, what does that say about China? If Pelosi goes and China does do it, shoots down Pelosi's plane or forcibly redirects or forces it to land somewhere in an emergency landing or whatever, redirects it in some way, what is the U.S. going to do about that? Number two, let's say Pelosi doesn't go to China or doesn't go to Taiwan. What does that say about China's power to influence America? What if Pelosi does go to Taiwan? So you see, there's no backing out of this at this point. So I was like sitting here thinking, like, how, if I was in the middle of this, first of all, why did she publicly say she was going to go to Taiwan? Why wouldn't you just do it like everybody else has done and go there and let China find out about it after the fact? For security reasons, even, that would be prudent. The U.S. military is advising her not to go to Taiwan. They're worried about stoking the fears, or the passions of China and provoking some kind of militaristic response. This would be an excuse for them to do in their minds. China is undergoing some domestic, extraordinarily tough times right now. You've got the entire property sector collapsing on itself, which is the number one investment in China. You've got bank runs happening in China right now where people can't get their money, their savings out of rural banks. Is of a scale where if China bails out the people that are in trouble, there's so much more of the market that's in trouble but not critical yet. If they bail out the people who are critical, everybody who's about to go critical will just go critical because they figure they're going to get a bailout, but there's not enough money. God doesn't have enough money to bail that out. Then if China doesn't bail them out, the property sector collapses, the banks fail, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of really, really, really upset citizens who are refusing currently to pay their mortgages, despite the fact there's these authoritarian regimes that turn their COVID apps red so they can't go anywhere if they don't pay their mortgage. It's amazing the dynamic that's happening in China. What a perfect time to have a nationalistic rallying cry as America invades Taiwan. Yeah, so I don't want to be alarmist about it, but like I said, when I'm doing these upgrades on these computers that have perfectly good motherboards in them, they're just Windows 10. They're not Windows 11 compatible chips. We can't make them Windows 11 compatible, so we got to replace the board. So I'm taking out these boards, and they function, and they'll run Windows 10. And in the back of my head, I'm just like, maybe I should just take the box from the new board and turn it inside out, so it's all brown, put the old board in there, close it up, and write a little label on it what it is, and just stick it on a shelf. Just for a year, My wife is like, oh my gosh, Thor, you're hoarding. But I'm just like, yeah, I would really hate to not be able to make computers for somebody who needed to have computers made because I couldn't get boards. But then again, who's going to want a motherboard from a 2013 computer, even if it will run Windows 10? I suppose if that's the only board you can get, if that's the only computer you can get. But how bad would things have to be for that to be the only computer you could get? Right? There's a lot of things in the last decade that you never thought you'd see in your lifetime that have happened. Maybe that's true of every decade. I don't know. I don't remember particularly too many things. Well, I guess no. In the 90s, we had the Gulf War. We never expected to see stealth technology, right? The Iraqi military was going to put up a stiff resistance, especially the Revolutionary Guard. And instead, we just literally we put bulldozer blades on the front of the tanks and filled their trenches in on top of them and rolled over them. To the point where Colin Powell was like, this isn't even war. This is just murder. We got to stop. Like, just surrender, please. And so I guess there's always things in decades that happen that you don't expect or that surprise. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like we're getting a lot more of those recently than normal, but it could just be me. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff that makes me sit up at night and go, oh golly, that could be bad. That could be bad for my family, that could be bad for my business, that could be bad for my customers, that could be bad for my employees. It could just be bad for everybody in the world. We don't want to see that happen if we can help it. So hopefully, I don't know how do you get out of this? Like, Do you not go to Taiwan? Or I thought maybe a Taiwanese delegation could fly to Japan and meet with Speaker Pelosi in Japan, which would prevent her from going to Taiwan, but would allow her to have a Taiwanese diplomatic exchange on the visit. It's still a cave, but at least it's a face-saving cave. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but it's going to happen in the next few days, whatever it does happen. On her itinerary, the Taiwan visit is still marked as tentative, so that it's not a confirmed stop on the itinerary yet. All right. Any questions? Post them now to Facebook over here in the comment section. If you have a question for me, we'd be happy to address it. Pop it over here, and I'll just scroll down and get to it here. Aaron's back. Sorry, Mark. I'm sorry it's taking me so long to get the Aftershock started. I had actual paperwork to do after the radio show. I had to send emails and do research on things and figure things out. So I got it all taken care of, though. But I'm glad to have you with us. Alrighty. After Putin's invasion of Ukraine, China is most likely feeling pretty emboldened about Taiwan. U.S. leadership is non-existent. This is what KJ is saying. Something along those lines. There was an article on Zero Hedge that I read that pointed out that well, that's really loud. There we go. I have a lot of headphones plugged in around me. The main volume is turned down, but all the headphones are on, so that's a lot of what you're hearing. But this article was pointing out that the warnings that China is issuing right now, if you clip those warnings, roll back in time before the Ukraine invasion, and paste them onto Russian diplomats, they're exactly the same warnings. This is what's going to happen if you do this. We're warning you. If NATO tries to expand into Ukraine, this is what is going to happen. Don't do that. We're massing troops. Don't do that. And then all of a sudden, there was the possibility of that happening, so Russia used that as an excuse to invade. I'm not suggesting that it's ridiculous that Russia was invading the Ukraine because they were afraid that NATO was going to be right up on their border, because now NATO is right up on their border with Finland and Sweden, right? So it doesn't make any sense. What does make sense, though, is that once the Ukraine joined NATO, attacking it would have been impossible. So we need to attack it before it joins NATO. That makes a lot of sense. So that dynamic is missing in the Taiwan situation. Taiwan is not imminently joining an alliance with the United States that promises mutual defense. That's not even on the table. So it would seem to me to be a little premature to go to war over the visiting of a political person to the island, but that's the same exact warnings that Russia gave. Very similar argument. Taiwan is Chinese territory. It was divested for whatever reason by somebody who didn't have the power to do it back in the day, and it should be ours, and we're going to take it back. The people there want to be Chinese. They don't, but the Chinese media says they do, so we're going to go liberate our Chinese brothers and sisters in Taiwan. It's a very similar argument to what the public arguments were for the Ukraine invasion. Like I said, the cognitive, the normalcy bias in my brain is saying nothing is going to happen. Taiwan will be fine. Pelosi may or may not go. China may or may not respond. The response will be proportionate to Pelosi's visit. It's not going to be like, launch the invasion boats, and they're not going to scuttle the factories over this. That's the normalcy bias, saying that everything tends to stay normal, which is true until it doesn't. And then it changes dramatically. So everything tends to stay normal until suddenly you have 9% inflation. Everything tends to stay normal until suddenly you have a pandemic. Everything tends to stay normal until suddenly you have a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Everything tends to stay normal until you suddenly realize from statistics being reported from studies in multiple countries that it's vaccinated people who are getting COVID more frequently and more severely than unvaccinated people. What the hell is going on? And now we find out Biden tested positive again. They said he's got COVID again. He doesn't have it again. He probably still has it. But he took Provlaxit or whatever. That's supposed to fix it, right? Why isn't it fixing it? Well, maybe because he's a really old guy and it takes a little time. Give the guy a week. It's like, I'm not a huge Joe Biden fan. by any means, but nobody wants to see somebody get sick and potentially die. So give the guy a week to get healthy. There was a video that popped up last week. So I mean, on one hand, it's like I don't wish Joe Biden any ill will as far as COVID death or anything like that. That please don't misunderstand. But there was a video that popped up. It's a proof of life video for Joe Biden that he's fine. He's got a scratchy throat, but he's doing fine. So the first half of the video, up to about the 8-minute mark, he was just kind of normal Joe, kind of a little sleepy, little not quite 100% energetic, but the guy's got COVID. So I mean, of course, he's an older gentleman with COVID. So you're going to cut him a little slack, right? And then something happened. There was a rough edit at like the 8-minute mark of the video. And then all of a sudden, for like the remaining 4 minutes of the video, like Joe Biden's eyes were like bug-eyed. He was like, and he didn't blink. He blinked like twice in 4 minutes. And he was really animated when he was talking. So I don't know what they gave him. My eyes are starting to burn right now. How did he do this for 4 minutes? They're starting to water. You see this? They're watering. Oh, God, I can't do it. But, I mean, what did they give him? Like, what did they give him at the 8-minute mark to make him do that? Like, was it a methamphetamine? Like, what did they give him? I couldn't keep my eyes open for a minute like that. But the video is like obvious to watch. Like, there's Joe Biden before whatever happened, and then there's Joe Biden after whatever happened. And the Joe Biden after was very much more lively than the Joe Biden before. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. But, I don't know what the deal is. I can speculate what the deal is, but I don't know what the deal is. But, hopefully, I mean, the current iteration of COVID that's circulating is certainly not lethal for just about everybody that gets it. It's a cold for just about everybody that gets it, unless they're immunocompromised or they have another situation that leads them to be in a compromised state. So, not a lot of people are going to the hospital with COVID anymore, but Joe Biden is, and they said he had something with his lungs. It's called pneumonia. So yeah, he's got a bad cold that caused him maybe to get a little pneumonia or something. He's sick. He's an older gentleman. He'll pull through. He's got the best health care in the world, so he will pull through. But in the meantime, they won't let his doctor talk. It's like, what are you trying to keep secret from the media? Oh, nothing. You get health reports every day on the president. Yeah, but we can't. You didn't bring his doctor to the briefing. If this was Donald Trump or President Bush or President Obama or any other president, the presidential doctor would be in here at the briefing answering reporters' questions. But Joe Biden's doctor is not answering any questions about anything. He's releasing prepared statements, status updates, if you will, but he's not taking questions. Why? Why not? I mean, it could just be incompetency of the current staff in the White House. I mean, sometimes those press briefings you see now, it's like literally, you have to respect, Jen Psaki. She, whether you liked her answers or not, her delivery, her talent on delivery, she could make you smile while she served you the excrement sandwich. I mean, she was good. The lady they got in there now, she looks like an intern, like from high school or something, that's trying to do a job that she's clearly not qualified for. She just sounds bad. I mean, you can still deliver the excrement sandwich, but you got to sound good doing it. And she doesn't. She just doesn't. And even the press, even the media is like, this is ridiculous that we're not getting the information that we need. You're not even promising to circle back. It's like, I don't know. I'll get back to you. No, wait, I won't get back to you. Okay, let's see here. Cheryl and Rich are with us. Good to have you guys. Pelosi's team is already backing down and going to Taiwan. Okay, well, like I said, I mean, somebody's going to back down. And when the U.S. military is publicly advising the Speaker of the House publicly not to go to Taiwan, what the heck is that? It's like, yeah, I don't know. So maybe she doesn't go, but then it's going to be really telling that we are afraid of China. And I guess if a country believes that, if an authoritarian country believes that if they push you, not only will you not push back, but you're going to stumble backward. So Russia pushes, and Russia's finances are better off than they were before. Yes, the Russian citizens are suffering, but we're seeing propaganda stories in the media about Russians that are so supportive of Vlad that they're literally getting the Z branded on their chest with a hot iron. There's a picture of this guy that's got like a Z branded into his flesh with all the red around it and everything. And I'm like, yeah, is that real? I don't know if that's real or not, but I'm trying to imagine in America, is there a subset of the population, if Trump asked you to brand a big T on your chest with a golden red hot brand, would you do it? If Joe Biden asked you to get a brand that says like the big guy right on your chest, would you do it? If Obama asked you to get the O logo branded to your chest, would you do it? Maybe there's a small subset of crazy people. Like, who's the guy that worked for Trump that had the Nixon tattoo on his back, across his whole back? There are people that will do these things, right? But they've got to be such a minority, you would think. I really doubt that the majority of the people in Russia are branding themselves in support of Vladimir Putin. It doesn't, but it's a story, it's like, I don't know about that one. Yeah, Kevin, there's a church service going on in the background. That's why you hear church music. All right, overall, how do you like your F-150? Hard to change lanes with the bad mirror. Should be a safety issue that needs attention ASAP. Okay, so F-150. Let me walk you through the story because I couldn't do it justice on the show today. So I wait 7 months to get my new truck, and I get my F-150. It is the 2022 F-150. It is a hybrid. It's not a plug-in hybrid. You don't have to plug it in when you go home, but it recharges basically I'm going to guess it's a supercapacitor that it's recharging off of braking or going downhill. It just charges up, and then when you stop at a stoplight, it turns the engine off. That's not really new tech, but then when you start up, if I'm sitting in a neighborhood like at a stop sign, and there's nobody around me, and I'm on a level surface, I take my foot off the brake, and the car starts rolling forward on battery. And if I keep the acceleration to about a mile an hour a second, I can stay on battery for quite a while. In fact, yesterday I took my son on it was a 6-mile trip, taking him back and forth to church. And it was in the evening, I was driving, I thought, let's see what I can do. So on a 6-mile trip, I was able to get 3 miles of it on battery. So yeah, it's pretty neat little hybrid system. So that part, I like the truck, right? It was tough to get used to because I was going from an F350, which is like driving a planet, down to the F150, which in comparison feels like a crossover or like a Ford Escort. It feels a lot smaller. Anybody who drives a car gets into that thing and like, this is a huge truck. But I'm used to driving like a dump truck everywhere I go, so it's a little smaller. But anyway, so I like the truck. I like it a lot. But it was very frustrating that, a couple months into owning it. So when I pull into the garage, there's my wife's car and my car. It's a 2-car garage. I pull into the garage. I have to fold my mirrors in. I liked the big mirrors on the F350, the towing mirrors. So when I custom built my F150, I had them put towing mirrors on it rather than the little dinky mirrors. So I wouldn't have to go back to little dinky mirrors. So when I go into the garage, I have to fold my ears down, or I will break them off in the garage, right? So this is the passenger side, so no, I didn't hit it on the garage. But so every day I fold them, twice a day. And then, of course, I have it set so when I park it and I lock it, it folds the mirrors down. Because when you're in a parking spot, you have your big mirrors hanging out. If another truck pulls in beside you, the odds of you getting clipped are pretty good. So I want to fold my big ears down and be courteous to my neighbor. So the ears get folded a lot. Well, now when I fold the ears out, the right ear, literally, it's like maybe 10 degrees difference in the mirror. It just doesn't, you can visually see in the plastics the way it's lining up that it's not going all the way out. And if I go outside on the truck, I can physically pull the mirror into place, but I can feel it's wobbly, like it's not going to stay. Then, of course, when you drive down the road, the wind hits the big mirror and it pushes it back. My son suggested, Dad, just tape it. Like, this is a 4-month-old truck. I'm not going to put tape on the mirrors already. Yeah, I'm not to that point in life yet. I'm going to get it fixed under warranty. So I call Baxter to get a service appointment, and I have to wait a month to get it in. So I've been driving like this for a month. I've got the glass on the right side turned all the way over. The weird thing is, if I fold the mirror in, I can adjust the glass. If I fold the mirror out, I can't adjust the glass anymore. So adjusting the glass was fun. You fold it in, you adjust it, you fold it out. Nope, not quite right. Fold it in, adjust it, fold it out. A little to the left. In, adjust, out. Okay, I think I got it now. So basically, I've got the glass adjusted so I can safely change lanes for the most part. I do have to lean forward a little bit to get a little bit of an angle when I'm changing lanes, but it's no different than looking over your shoulder. So my body's used to it now. So they take it in. The master controller switch thing is not working, so they need a replacement. They can't get a replacement. They don't know when there's going to be a replacement, so they will call me when they know more. That's the answer for my $90,000 truck. They'll call me when they know more. For that kind of service, I could have bought a Tesla. It's like, So, while the truck was in the shop for 2 days. While it was in the shop, they let me drive an F-150 Lightning. Now, the Lightning is, of course, the all-electric F-150, okay? So, first off, driving the Lightning, when I first got into it, it could have just been the way the last guy had it set. It was set to drive like a Power Wheels. If you ever had a son or a daughter or a grandson or granddaughter that had Power Wheels, when they hit the gas, it goes forward, and when they take their foot off the gas, it brakes, it electric brakes. So it stops. So in other words, unless they're trying to go forward, it's not going to go anywhere. Well, that's how this F-150 was driving. The second you took your foot off the gas, it would start braking, and it was using the braking to recharge the battery. Think about all the times you take your foot off the gas when you don't want to slow down necessarily. Like when you're turning a corner in an intersection. You don't accelerate into the turn, right? You get your turning speed, and then while you're turning, I'm not accelerating or decelerating, I'm turning. And then when I come out of the turn, I accelerate out of the turn, right? Well, with this F-150 Lightning, you have to keep it's called one-pedal driving. You have to keep your foot on the gas or it will start braking. So you have to accelerate just a little bit, but you're not really using gas because it's on the battery. It was very confusing. I figured out where that setting was and got that turned off, so then it behaved like a normal truck, and I actually was able to drive it more efficiently manually than with the electric braking. So that was great. Second thing, the head stack, the stereo system, forced you to use Android Autoplay. Well, Android Auto doesn't work if you have a VPN on your phone. Don't know why. Just one of those things. Literally, they know it because on the screen they said, you must have a VPN because it's not working. Couldn't connect. So I'd turn off my VPN to connect my phone to the truck so I could listen to music or audio book or whatever while I'm driving. Well, your VPN automatically reconnects after a period of time just because you may have forgotten to reconnect it. So then, boom, just drops. I got to reconnect it. It's not really safe. I'm driving down the road, doing all these things. So anyway, the electric, though, I have to tell you, driving it, you will forget you're driving an electric vehicle. When you're driving it, it just feels like you're driving an F-150. They did a fabulous job with the feel of the vehicle. The acceleration is off the charts. It was phenomenal. Downside. While my truck was in the shop, my wife had to go pick up a piece of furniture in Lincoln, so she had to take the truck to Lincoln. Max range on the truck is like 300 miles, right? So Lincoln from Omaha, depending on where you're going in Lincoln, call it 50 miles, okay? Maybe 60, but 50, let's say. Truck had 205 miles on the charge. So 100 miles there and back, but I've never driven it on the interstate before. I don't know how it behaves with the battery on the interstate. Does it use more charge when you're going faster? I don't know. So I thought, well, when I get home, I better plug it in, right? So I get it home, and I get the plug cord out, and I plug it into the wall. Pops the breaker in the garage, because it's on the GFI, so I have stuff outside I have to unplug, and then, okay, now I can plug it in, and it doesn't pop the breaker. Every hour that it's on a 110-volt charger, it charges 3 miles for every hour you have it on the charger. So you put it on overnight, you get 24 miles the next day from the charge you put in it. Well, I decided that I better make sure that my wife has as much range as possible. So I plug it in overnight. It puts the 24 miles on it, and she drives to Lincoln and back. It works like a champ. Does fine. You know, exact same power draws on the interstate as it did in the city. So, you know, again, kudos there. But there was just something unnerving about driving a vehicle and you don't know where your next fuel source is. And part of that is because we don't drive electric vehicles. If you drive an electric vehicle, you probably know where all the charging stations are, just like you know where the gas station is. So I'm looking them up on the Ford Blue Circle charging and everything. Ironically, there's a charger at the dealership, 144th and Highway 370, but they're not on the Blue Oval charging network. So they're not even listed as a place you can go charge your Ford Lightning, even though they're a Ford dealership. It's kind of funny. But so anyway, it was an experience. So I have to tell you, after driving an electric vehicle, an all-electric truck, I probably wouldn't recommend driving one for someone like me. If you're driving to Des Moines, for example, that's not going to work real well. I mean, you can drive there, and then you got to have it on a charger. You're going to have to stop at a supercharger somewhere, or like a charging place, like a gas station that has a charger, or a parking garage, or a shopping mall. You're not going to be able just to plug it into a 110 and get home again. And of course, as it charges the vehicle, you have to stay with the vehicle. You have to stay there, so you're not at work. You're somewhere else, so it's kind of inconvenient. Unless you have stops to make. I mean, if you're going to shop, plugging it in while you're shopping is not a big deal. But for someone like me, it wasn't something that I would do. Now, with that said, I still thought about buying it because I was like, how much money this would save the service centers doing free pickups and free drop-offs for people? Even though we're driving those little Ford Fiestas and Ford Escapes, these tiny little Ford vehicles, they have walnut-sized gas tanks that cost like $60 a tank to fill. You know how much money we would save if we were able to go electric and just charge off power instead? And the vehicles sit outside the shops a lot of the day anyway, so plugging it into a 110 wouldn't be a big deal. It could charge for 22 hours a day, and if it puts 24 miles back on with every daily charge, we don't drive them more than 25 or 30 miles a day anyway. So this could on Sunday they don't usually go anywhere, so they'd have the whole day and night Sunday to catch up. So this could really be something. And then I could drive an F-150 Lightning whenever I wanted, right? And my staff would be like, "This is so cool. We have an electric truck at work. I want to work there." So how much is it? How much is the F-150 Lightning? $80,000. And that's not the platinum trim. Like, my truck was expensive, and it's got like the platinum everything trim because I was able to trade in my F-350 for such an exorbitant price as a used car that I was able to get this brand new car before the prices of the new cars went up at, like, it was an even trade. The F-150 Lightning is an $80,000 truck in the Lariat package, which is one step down from Platinum, so it doesn't have like the self-driving and all the other stuff. This blew my mind, and this made me think about all of the people who have no idea this is happening yet, but they're going to realize it real quick. There are no 0% cars anymore. 0% interest rates, there are none, not at Ford. The best interest rate you can get on a vehicle at Ford is a 1.9% interest rate, and that's on an F-150 at 36 months. The F-150 Lightning on a 36-month payment at a 1.9% interest rate would be an $1,800 monthly payment. Now, I'm sorry. Who can afford that? What person could afford that? Like, what individual could afford that? Yeah, I'm sure that, of course there are some people that can afford that. But this is an F-150. This isn't a luxury vehicle. Who's going to pay $1,800 a month to drive an electric pickup truck because you want to save money on gas? So you're going to spend $1,800 a month on a pickup truck? It doesn't make sense. So they want you to stretch it out. So you can stretch it out to like 72 months, 84 months, The interest rate goes up to like almost 5% though. The payments are just so crazy. And then the other problem is, how long is the life on the battery? We don't really know on the F-150 Lightnings yet. Tesla batteries look like about 7 years before you really start to notice they're degrading. part of that is because I believe that Tesla manufactures their batteries with excess capacity, so that the battery, the degradation can happen for a longer period of time. Same thing we do with our computer power supplies. We give you a power supply that's so over-spec'd for the wattage that you need that you could lose half of its capability and you wouldn't even notice. It costs us like $5 extra when we build the computer, but then it allows you down the line to upgrade and put in things like new motherboards and processors and things that are crazy, that use more power than the previous ones did, but your power supply can handle it. So Tesla does that with their batteries. I don't know if Ford does that with their batteries. It was weird. It had a frunk, like the hood opened up and it was just an empty space. There was a beer cooler under the hood, which I thought was interesting. There's power outlets there. You can bring the party, put out the speakers, open up the beer cooler. I mean, I can see the commercial. There you go. But I'm telling you, I'm not going to spend $1,800 a month on an electric vehicle so I can avoid spending, $60 a week in gas. It doesn't make sense. Which then you put that in perspective with all the stuff you're hearing out of the administration on our transition to clean energy. You just need to buy an electric vehicle and you'll be fine. I mean, are you kidding? Like, look at this. Just buy an electric vehicle and you'll be fine. Car and Driver Consumer Reports put out a report on Mazda. They have a kind of an everyman. I forget what the model is, but it's a limited range, all electric, tiny little car designed for in-town commuting. It didn't get 70 miles in range. It was supposed to get like 100, 105 or something miles in range. When they tested it, it got 70. And it took 9 seconds to accelerate from 0 to 60. And to go from 50 to 70 took 5 seconds. So there's no acceleration. There's one motor. It's a go-kart. It's an electric go-kart. That's the everyman car that's being sold for $32,000 or whatever. I mean, my goodness, I can't imagine. Can't imagine driving that. So anyway, John, that's my report on the F-150 and the F-150 Lightning. I would recommend the F-150 hybrid highly. I'm getting like 22 miles a gallon in an F-150. That's in town mostly, so pretty good stuff. Just upgraded to Windows 11 and installed the M.2 we talked about last year. My computer runs like a cheetah chasing a gazelle. Richard, that's hilarious. Yeah, that's one of the things, the new motherboards. A lot of the customers that are getting new motherboards, they had the older motherboards that didn't have the M.2 spot for what's, I'm throwing a lot of letters out, for the NVMe hard drive. So they have the solid state hard drive, but it's not the super fast solid state hard drive. And so, when we're doing these upgrades, I usually don't push people on their hard drive because the computer is going to be so much faster than it was before they did the upgrade that they're not going to save that for another day. Maybe one day if your hard drive ever fails, when we replace it, rather than replacing it with the 2.5-inch one, we replace it with an NVMe. The cost is about the same, a little bit more for the NVMe, but it's not significant. But yeah, it's not a reason to replace a perfectly good hard drive. But if you're going to do it anyway, like Richard is saying, the speed, it's like triple the speed. It's like, remember how fast your computer got when you went from a mechanical hard drive to a solid state? It's like that all over again. It's like going from mechanical to solid state all over again when you go from a solid state 2.5-inch to like an NVMe. It's that much faster. It's crazy. Absolutely cannot see how these electric vehicles could make it across Iowa from border to border for driving for 4 hours. Imagine what I-80 would be like with dead battery vehicles stopped. Well, that's the thing. I mean, every rest stop would have chargers. That's part of what the infrastructure bill is supposed to do, is to be building out our charging infrastructure network so that there are places for these vehicles to charge. I was surprised when we went to Yellowstone. Here we are at Yellowstone, top of the mountain, and there's Teslas driving around. And they have Tesla charging stations up there. I mean, there's EV charging stations, people charging their EVs up there. So, I mean, the chargers are all over the place, and they can, and another thing that I learned, when you're charging an electric vehicle, to go from like 15%, which is about as low as you want it to get, be safe, up to 80%, usually can only take a half hour, 45 minutes on a really fast charger. It does stress the battery to charge it that fast, but most people want the convenience. But going from 80% to 100% takes twice as long. and that's because there's a point of diminishing returns on voltages in battery charging when you get over 80%. But that's true of all lithium-ion batteries. So that's true of your cell phone. That's true of your laptop. Made me think about all those times, like, you charge up your phone, and remember how it goes from like 0 to 50% really fast, but then to get to 100%, it takes a long time. Well, that's why. So, lessons learned. All right. Magical thinking. Yeah, magical thinking for sure. All right, guys. Last call for questions. We're going to wrap her up here. We're going to have to get going here shortly. I have to tell you, I have 15 or 20 more Ryzen 3 chips that are on order, that are on the way to the service centers right now. I can reliably get the Ryzen 5 chips. I can order those on demand. So like I can get those. The Ryzen 3s are the cheaper ones, and I don't know if AMD has stopped making them or what the deal is, but they are getting incredibly scarce. Then, of course, the Ryzen 7 chips are always available because those are the big dogs. That's what everybody wants. Super performance in a computer is getting a Ryzen 7 chip. Those cost about $150 over what the cheap chip would cost. So anyway, if you have one of our desktops and you're thinking about doing the Windows 11 upgrade, I would encourage you, the best way to do this, rather than calling and trying to say, do you have any chips today? Bring it into the service center. Let us get it on the bench. There's prep work that goes in and testing that goes in before we do the upgrade. We have chips that come in every day. We're able to move those chips to the service centers that they need to get moved to so that you get your computer back in a day or so. So rather than waiting and seeing if we have chips, because if you wait, somebody else is just going to come in and drop their computer off, and then we'll never have chips, and you'll never get the sale price, and you just be like, what happened? So just drop the computer off. I know you need your computer back. We'll get it back to you quickly, but let us do the upgrade for you, and then we'll get your computer back to you right quick to make sure that you're able to get going. So also, if you have one of our 2019 or 2020 holiday specials and you've been told that you are not Windows 11 compatible, Microsoft did change the processor list of compatibility, and a lot of those chips that were in those computers are now compatible, which means that you don't need any hardware. We can just do it with just the software. So you're just an hour of labor, basically, to get your computer upgraded to Windows 11. So it's definitely something that's worth giving us a call on or dropping the computer off so we can get you taken care of. All right. Thank you guys for joining us on the program today. I appreciate you taking the time to be here with me today. I know it's time out of your Sunday morning, and I appreciate you choosing to spend it here. We'll see you guys in the service centers. I'll be flying around. I'll probably be spending a lot of time in Omaha this week. But yeah, we'll be in the service centers and upgrading your computer. Hopefully, we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.